Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 1. Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 1. Did you know, reportedly some time ago our family's first miss was having an affair with a stranger outside and that she was caught by the second miss red-handed during their act. To make it more scandalous, the first miss even turned the whole thing around and blamed her younger sister for framing her. Can you believe that? The second miss even cried on the spot when it happened. Speaking of the first miss, don't you think her fate's simply too good? Despite being a useless person, she still managed to become the fiancée of the second prince, yet she still cheated on His Highness when the prince didn't mind her uselessness. I know, right? It's bad enough granted she lost her chastity, but the lady even went and got herself pregnant. With all that ruckus going on outside, the royal family's face is practically dragged through the mud because of her. I also heard that in order to compensate His Highness, our family had to betroth the second miss to him. And did you know, the second miss is so forgiving that she's trying to persuade His Highness into taking the first miss as an extra concubine. Tell me, as a woman who lost their chastity, do you think she is deserving to be the second prince's woman? Seated in her bed, Bayan gently caresses her still flat abdomen. Towards the boisterous discussion coming from the outside, there's no emotion in her eyes, only the calm that can be found in a rippleless pond. 3 months ago when she first came to this world, a time where she's still unfamiliar with her environment, her good stepsister Bairuo had arranged a very fine and ugly man for her without permission. Behold, her desperate escape. Despite clawing her way out from under the vile man's grasp, she eventually failed to resist the aphrodisiac in her body and had to rely on a random man she found in the wild to relieve its effect. Even if there were only her alone in the forest by the time Bairuo arrived at the scene, the marks on the body were evident enough of what happened. In Bayan's mind, a pair of bloodthirsty eyes belonging to that stranger suddenly appeared, clouding her vision like a haze of fog. It's unsure if it's due to the drug or that it's too traumatic, but she simply couldn't remember the face of that man. Sister, a familiar voice pulls her back to reality. Raising her head, Bayan was welcomed by the figure of a handsome and elegant young man walking through the door. From the memories she inherited through the original host of this body, Bayan can tell the boy was called Baisio, her younger brother. Born of the same mother, he's the only person left in this world whom she cared for. Years ago, after their biological mother Lan Yue passed away, their birth father Bai Zhengxiang immediately raised one of his concubine status into the main wife. As a result, that woman named Yurong, stepmother, and her 2 daughters, Bairuo and Baizhi, instantly rose over Banyan and her brother in terms of status within the family. If not for their mother's maiden family, the Lan household still being around to act as deterrents, the 2 of them, mere orphans at that point, would have been left with nowhere else to go. However, all things will change following the passage of time. Nowadays there aren't a single soul left who still remembers the main reasoning behind the Bai family's success had in large been due to the Lan family's support. Back then the chief of the Lan family had refused to let his daughter marry into the Bai family because the man had already taken in several concubines under his name. Sadly, Lan Yue threatened to sever their father and daughter relationship, thus forcing Lord Lan into agreement. In order to not allow Lan Yue suffer any grievances in this marriage, the Lan family had prepared a wedding dress that stretched over 10 leagues in length, leading to a sensation across the city. Then to top things off, the Lan family also broke their coffer to purchase countless medicinal pills to act as dowry for Lan Yue. 1 li equals 500 meters in length. It's a Chinese metric not often used anymore. But who would have guessed things would turn out so horribly not long after? Unable to resist the sweet honeying words of her husband, the foolish woman went as far to submissively give away those precious medicines that her own family gave her. As a result of this endeavor, Bai Zhengxiang was able to directly break into the sky rank, with the aid and propelled his Bai family into a first-rate noble household. It can be said the prestigious status of the current Bai family was the result of Lan Yu's sacrifice. If Bayan herself, the current her, can feel such outrage, it's not hard to imagine how angry Lord Lan must have been over the years to go as far as to distance himself from his daughter. Simply said, the man had truly been hurt by his own flesh and blood. Sister, Baisio appears to be struggling to speak. Don't be too sad, it's the second prince's loss for breaking off the marriage with you. I've long noticed the unusual gazes coming off of Bairuo and the second prince. The relationship between them can't be normal. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 2, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 2. Finding only silence from her sister for so long, Baixiu assumed it's due to the sadness revolving the recent events. Why do you say it's the second prince's loss when everyone believes it's I who betrayed him? A laugh nearly escaped her mouth. I trust you. No way my sister would betray him, so that leaves me to believe you must have been framed. The boy's expression was firm as he spoke in a vicious tone. If I find out who that person is, I will definitely not let him off. Bai Yan's heart trembled at that statement, for an inexplicable feeling was starting to form in her heart. In the past life, she herself was the descendant of an ancient Chinese martial art family. As such, she's been instilled with the concept of becoming strong since her childhood. And in order to meet that demand, she deserted her friends and family to reach that goal. In the end, she lost her life alone at the hands of a lightning strike from the heavens during her efforts to refine a 9th-rank Dan pill. Now that she's able to get a new lease on life again through great difficulty after having her soul extinguished and body destroyed, she's not going to repeat the same mistake as she did during her past life. Family and friends will supersede her pursuit for power this time. Oh yes. Rummaging through his pocket, the young boy then pulls out a small coin purse and placed it in her hands. You are now pregnant, so your body needs nourishment. These banknotes are for you. Squeezing the coin purse, Bai Yan's heart ached at the sensation in her fingers. Where did you get this money from? I pawned the jade pendant that mother left me when she was still alive. That's when Bai Yan's heart had clenched even tighter. Don't be fooled by their glorious appearance on the outside. In reality, the Bai family would frequently deduct their monthly allowances, and even Lan Yu's dowry were now in stepmother Yurong's hand. As it so happens, these two siblings are also quite stubborn in their personalities. They knew their mother had thoroughly disappointed their maternal grandfather. No matter how much suffering they endured, neither siblings would seek out the Lan family for help. It didn't help either when the Lan family was overconfident in their assumptions. They believed the Bai family wouldn't maltreat the two siblings. Besides, their mother's dowry alone was enough for the pair to live out their lives in luxury. But in reality, while Yurong's daughters gets to drape themselves in fine clothes and eat exotic delicacies, Bai Yan and her brother on the other hand had to starve on regular intervals. The most laughable part was that Bai Zhenxiang didn't even know how to do business, while Yurong was a massive spender. During these years, the expenses incurred by the Bai family were all funded by Lan Yu's dowry. As for Bai Xiao's jade pendant, it's the only item left for him by Lan Yue as a memento in which he kept hidden all these years. If he hadn't concealed it so deeply, it's likely that their stepmother Yurong would have taken it away long ago too. While all kinds of thoughts were running through Bai Yan's mind, a maidservant had pompously entered the premise without permission, thus interrupting the siblings' conversation. Miss, the madam is seeking your audience. Sister. Baixiu hastily grabs her hand, his eyes filled with worry. Don't worry, I will be fine. Bai Yan comforts her brother by patting Baixiu on the hand. Giving him a meaningful wink, she then headed towards the doorway. In an instant, a majestic and imposing aura radiates out of the young lady. Her alluring red dress spread far and wide, her icy cold eyes sharp and dangerous. Following each of her step, the maidservant would have a harder time breathing, like something has clutched onto her throat. Don't forget, you are merely a servant here. Even if I'm not in favor, I'm still a master of the Bai residence. Not asking me for my permission to enter my chamber is akin to disrespecting me, thus I am in my right to have you beaten to death. The maidservant's face turned ashen with fright. She had signed the slavery contract, therefore even if the master wanted to kill her, she would have no choice but to die. Due to Bai Yan being too timid previously, the maid had become complacent around her and forgot this crucial fact. Lead the way. The young lady's tone was cold and detached, making her unquestionable. Yes, milady. No longer daring to act out of place, the maidservant understands well enough that even if the one in front of her had a bad reputation, the lady had every authority to punish a servant. Blankly staring at the retreating figure's back, Baixiu got the aching nudge in the back of his head that her elder sister have changed over these past few months. She's stronger, more reliable, and enough to put his mind at ease. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 3, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 3. When Bai Yan entered the main room, there were already others inside, mainly her stepmother Yurong and a silver-haired old lady. The old woman obviously wasn't of the Bai family, instead, it's Yurong's biological mother and Bai Zhenxiang's aunt. 10 years ago, old Madame Yu had intended to let her nephew Bai Zhenxiang marry Yurong to increase their family bond, but the man disliked the fact that his cousin couldn't bring more to the table. To remedy the situation, the man only allowed Yurong to enter his Bai family as a concubine while Bai Zhenxiang took Lan Yue as his main wife. Then once Lan Yue passed away, the heartless scumbag immediately raised Yurong's status into his main wife. To make things more despicable was how easily he invited the old madam into their house after Yurong repeatedly pleaded to him with her tears. Nowadays, Bai Zhenxiang literally treats the old madam like his own mother. With filial piety and respect. Like daughter like mother. If Yurong was such a heavy spender, old Madame Yu can't be all that thrifty either. Over the years, most of the Lan family's dowry have been expended at their hands, leaving hardly any left at this point. Bai Yan, be honest and quickly confess. Who is the adulterer? Old Madame Yu tilts her head high, her manner of speech haughty and arrogant like someone interrogating a convict. And what does that have to do with you? Bai Yan's lip curved in a shallow smile, her eyes cold as she gazed at the old woman seated before her. Insolent. Old Madame Yu angrily slaps the table next to her. I am your maternal grandmother, so of course I have the right to know who your adulterer is. My maternal grandmother. My maternal grandmother is in the Lan family right now. As for you, you are merely Bai Ruo and Bai Ji's grandmother. Now quit adding gold to your own face. You. The old woman's face was starting to distort due to anger. Nothing but a wild child without a mother. What qualifications does she have to be so arrogant in front of me? Mother, please calm your anger. Yurong quickly came over to soothe her mother's back. Looking back at the girl, Bai Yan, the truth is I called you over today to tell you some good news. Someone is willing to take you as their concubine so long as you abort your child. So in your opinion the eldest daughter of the Bai family is only fit you be someone's concubine. Bai Yan closes in on the two, her voice carrying a trace of frost. Grunting, the old madam rebuts her, you are but a lowly wench who lost her virginity at this point, what right do you have to be picky? I'm telling you, the old one from the Xuanhuan family is willing to offer up a genuine third-grade spiritual Dan pill for your betrothal gift. Now that there's a man willing to take you, what right do you have left to choose? Bai Yan narrows her eye. I've heard the master of that Xuanhuan family is already over 50 years old, and that his temperament is brutal and ruthless. According to what I know, his concubines are constantly dying under shady circumstances. Are you intent on having me throw away my life? The Xuanhuan family was also one of the 4 aristocratic families in the city, but their reputation was mostly gained through their vicious cruelty. It's said that if a woman enters the Xuanhuan household, the only way out would be as a corpse. You stinkin' lass, our Bai family fed you and raised you for so many years, shouldn't you at least return some of it? Let me tell you the truth then, my son has reached the lower level of the earth rank and requires a genuine spiritual pill to break through. So, this time you can only marry into the Xuanhuan household as a concubine. Bai Yan had long known these people are shameless, but she never expected them to be of this extent. Smearing, first, your surname is Yu, not Bai. If others hear you they might presume you are the old mistress of our Bai family. Secondly, what does it have to do with me if your son needs a spiritual pill? How does it relate to me, and why should I sacrifice myself for your Yu family? Thirdly, you mentioned about the Bai family having to raise me since I was young, but this Bai household only reached its current status because of my mother. Heck, even the dress you're wearing right now comes from my mother's dowry. Livid with anger, old Madame Yu starts to tremble all over after being reprimanded so openly. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 4, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 4. As expected of a bastard child without the upbringings of a mother, my son is your uncle, what's wrong with sacrificing a little bit for him? For someone like you who isn't chaste nor clean, you should be secretly overjoyed now that someone is willing to have you. Since the old woman still wasn't content with her scolding, she didn't realize the surrounding temperature around Bayan had dropped by several degrees, but you and your sly mother seem to have the same revolting behaviors. Your whole person is filled with a strong foul odor. Firstly, you seized the second prince, and now you are involved with matters of public moral. Plus, you would even be so heartless towards your own relatives. Wait till your father comes back, I'll immediately have him beat you to death. Raising the corner of her mouth, Bayan watches on as the old woman rambles with the reprimanding words. Her eyes are cold like ice and surged with a murderous intent that looked like they could burst forth at any moment. Mother, don't say any more. Yuron feigns persuasion before turning back to Bayan. My child, as a relative, one ought to help each. Now that your uncle needs your help, how can you not help? Besides, your father dislikes people who are cold and heartless. In the past, what the original Bayan cared the most about was her father Bai Zhenxiang's opinion. As such, Bayan would agree to anything whenever Yurong used this weakness against her. Take the harsh treatment inside the Bai house for example. Not a word was leaked to the public regarding it for this reason. But that only applied to the former Bayan. The current her was no longer the same person. As relatives, one ought to help each other. Those spoken words are indeed correct. The Yu family is after all your, Yurong's, relatives. It has nothing to do with me. You can let Bai Ruo or Bai Ji be married off. Surely they don't wish to be a cold and heartless person. Distorting in her face, Yurong almost couldn't believe what she's hearing after using her sweet and coaxing manner of speaking. I even pulled out her father's name yet it's still not working. Impudent. Old Madame Yu fiercely glared at her. My Ji is only 12 years old. You would actually let some 12 years old be married off to a 60 years old man as a concubine. How could you suggest such malicious things? You're really no different from that poisonous mother of yours. In the eyes of the old madam, Lan Yue was the most malicious person in the world, for if not for that woman, her daughter wouldn't have become a concubine for so many years. In response, Bayan suddenly had the urge to laugh in this moment. So marrying off the 12 years old Bai Ji as a concubine is considered malicious. Then what about me? I too am only just 17 this year. So my case is ought to be. As for Ruo, old Madame Yu coldly snorts, which part of you could compete with my granddaughter Ruo? In a few days she'll soon be married to the second prince as the royal concubine. A pregnant and unmarried woman like you would even dare to suggest my Ruo marry an old man as a concubine. Someone as selfish as you who would let their sisters be married off as concubines, what qualifications do you have to act like the honorable young miss of the Bai household? Old Madame Yu's ability to twist things around had always been very strong. This much Bayan knew from the past experiences she inherited from the original host. Otherwise, why would Bai Zhenxiang believe a mother-in-law over his own flesh and blood? I'll reaffirm once more, I, Bayan, will absolutely not be married off as a concubine. Her gaze was similarly to a sharp blade, cold and dangerous as she shot a glance at the two before her. Losing her breath there for a moment, Yurong found it difficult to breathe inside the room as if the entire place had been compressed by a heavy pressure. When did this stinking brat become so imposing and powerful? No, this must be my own imagination. Bayan is merely a useless trash, nothing more. Changing her tone, Yurong holds back her mother from further berating the girl while she herself calmly walked over. Bayan, tonight the Qian family will be sending their people over for you. Even if you're not willing, it matters not, you'll still have to be the concubine of the Qian family's old chief. She tilts her head up like a high and mighty person, completely losing the false gentle disguise she had on previously. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 5, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 5. No one can force me into matters that goes against my will. Expressionless, Bayan beams with ice in her eyes. Smearing, Yurong contemptuously replies, I know you are thinking that your destiny is unfair, that's why you are so opposed to the idea. After all, your former fiancé will soon be taking my daughter as his wife. The status between the two of you now can be described as one in the heavens and the other on the ground. Truth is, if not for your maiden family, do you think the king would bestow a marriage between you and the second prince? Or do you actually believe you can compete with my daughter Ruo? My daughter is well educated, gifted with talent, and very sensible. Only she can be the royal concubine of the prince. And someday in the future, my Ruo will rule the nation as its queen mother while you can only look up to her in the dust. My Ruo is so excellent and wonderful, how can this girl even think about comparing herself? What a joke. Ellipsis. I actually think your one and only use is to exchange yourself for a third-grade spiritual pill. In order to express our gratitude for your efforts, I will even let you catch a glimpse of the product after I receive it. Otherwise, a garbage like you wouldn't have a chance to see such a thing in your entire lifetime. Bai Yan sneered at the laudable statement. In her previous lifetime she could even refine an 8th grade damn pill, let alone some measly 3rd grade. If you called me over today only to say these things, then I ought to advise you to save some energy. Faintly sweeping a glance over the despicable pair within the room, however, the matters of today, I Bai Yan, will definitely engrave this in my mind. When the time comes, I'll have each and every one of you pay the price. When the time comes. Disdain filled the old madam's face, for there wouldn't be another day once this girl enters the Qian family. After tossing her statements out there, Bai Yan confidently turns away from those in the room. She didn't look back, leaving only a trail of red behind her under the afternoon sun. Ellipsis. Back inside her own place, Bai Yan was currently sitting on her bedside with her legs crossed. If anyone were to see her now, they will immediately notice a faint yellowish thread of energy flowing into her body. A color trait of those in the yellow rank of their cultivation. 3 months and I'm only at the advanced yellow rank, this speed is simply too slow. If only I can refine some medicinal damn pills right now, then I can change my physique and increase my speed by several folds. Then again, the former Bai Yan's rank was only a bit stronger than an average person, even weaker than that of a servant here whose usual rank are at the lower yellow rank. As to why she's able to reach the advanced yellow rank, it's all due to her diligent effort within these past few months. The sky soon darkens, and the night turns quiet. Not long after, a series of rustling sound came from the outside. Bai Yan knows this was the signal of the Qian family arriving for her. Sure enough, 2 servant girls came in through the door, their faces cold. "Follow us." She didn't speak, only slowly walking out the room in an unhurried manner where there's already a sedan in wait. Not resisting their urge to board, Bai Yan proceeded to step inside as the servant girls promptly closed the sedan door behind her. Just like that, the entourage then quickly sped towards the Qian house without a single master fighter to escort them, because it's a well-known fact that Bai Yan was a weakling and had no way to resist. Perhaps they are afraid of being discovered, but the streets they passed through were the most remote in the city. Therefore, when a loud, banging sound broke out, no one in the public managed to take notice. Dusts and smoke were riled up everywhere as the sedan heavily dropped to the ground. What's going on? The porters were stunned for a moment by the suddenness of it all, but they soon came back to their senses enough to check on the passengers inside. To their horror, the maids that were supposed to be on guard duty inside were all left unconscious. The only one still awake was the young lady lazily popping her against the hand. Towards that face with a set of graceful black hair flowing down her shoulders, only the phrase, soul-stealing, can be used to describe that beauty. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 6, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 6. I should thank you for taking me away from the Bai house. Quote. Curving her lips into a smirk, her smile was akin to a flower in beauty. In a bit, help me inform you wrong that the debt between us will be made even in the future. Due to the shock of it all, by the time the 4 porters regained their senses, the seat inside the sedan had already become empty. What's left now were the spooky cool breeze of the night constantly hitting on their nerves. Ellipsis. Bai Yan didn't know it at the time, but her departure that night caused quite the stir in the Lu Huo kingdom. Naturally, the Qian house would come looking someone to take responsibility now that their paid product was gone. In order to hush the matter down from the public's ear, Yurong could only compensate the other party with huge sums of money. This of course deepened the already burning hatred she had for Bai Yan as a result. However, the one hurting the most can only be old Madame Yu, for whenever she thought of the third-grade spiritual pill that was about to fall into her hands, she would burst into tears on the streets. To mitigate the embarrassing scene, Yu Rong twists the story around and claimed her mother was weeping out of worry for the ungrateful granddaughter who eloped with a man. As such, old Madame Yu became the affectionate and true grandmother, while Bai Yan became the heartless wolf granddaughter. The news was so sensational that it spread across every nook and cranny in the city. For a time, the Bai house's fame hit an all-time high, leaving Bai Yan to face the reviled curses of the populace. Of course, the one to be emotionally harmed the most from Bai Yan's departure had to be her brother Bai Xiao. For several months, the boy locked himself away in his room and refused to come out. And when he did, the young teenage boy from back then was gone. In its place was a mature man that lacked emotion in the eyes. Ellipsis. Several months later, inside a barren valley, Bai Yan was currently holding her aching belly as beads of sweat flowed from her face. The day I predicted should be 2 days from now. Why am I going into labor now? She grits her teeth and leans against the rocky wall. This place doesn't even have any tools, let alone some hot water. Good thing I made some medicinal pills ahead of time. She slowly exhaled and popped one of the pills into her mouth. Slowly but surely, the energy she lost earlier was gradually being restored. Check. It's unsure when, but a group of firefox had gathered around her while her attention was preoccupied. Towards the unwelcome intruders, Bai Yan was very nervous because she's afraid they might do something in this critical moment. However, her fear had been wasted, for these firefoxes were acting like dedicated guards and kept her in the middle of their formation. Demon beasts, she muses after looking at this group. In these lands, there are both ordinary animals and demon beasts, the latter being the stronger kind. They can be domesticated like all animals out there, but most are done by forceful contracting by a human and then used for battle. Then there are the uncommon methods of domestication used by the various powers out there in the wild, which wasn't easy to see for the ordinary folks. So, it's no surprise as to why Bai Yan would wonder why these firefoxes would protect her. No, the correct term should be protecting her child. Maybe it's due to the effects of the medicinal pill, or maybe it's just the child wanting to come out, but in the next heavy push, Bai Yan can feel a soft squirming thing slipping out from underneath. Yet, in the moment when her child came into this world, the firefoxes all retreated in unison like they are welcoming the emperor, with their paws plastered to the ground in a kneeling position. And in the places Bai Yan couldn't see, all demon beasts in existence were aiming their heads at her direction. Their poses are all the same, prostrating there like they are worshipping some sort of being. Following the vision of the heavens, all beasts shall kneel in worship, for the ruler has descended upon the world. Ellipsis. Regardless of what's going on outside, Bai Yan didn't care. To her, there's more pressing matters at hand, and that's the scene before her right now. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 7, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 7. Can someone please tell her why the baby she gave birth to was a hairless fox? Furthermore, how can a newly born fox target her clothes and cry mommy? It's one thing to give birth to a fox, but to able to speak too. It can't be that someone was trying to take advantage of her lack of education now. Who are you? After trying oh so hard to speak, Bai Yan finally pressed these words out of her mouth. Mommy. Baby hungry. Super cute and clean in his gaze, the baby fox eyed her pathetically in order to win his mother over. Originally Bai Yan was still being depressed over the fact that she gave birth to a fox, but against that sort of adorable face, even her heart was melting. Baby hungry. Milky. Slowly crawling up from below, the baby fox leisurely pulled open Bai Yan's chest area and started suckling in comfort. You were Tilda. Burping. The baby fox ends the session with this and took to closing its cute little eyes for sleeping. Apparently, the child had no qualms about napping in his mother's embrace. Seeing the little guy snoozing away so peacefully in her bosom, Bai Yan's heart became touched. You are my child that I carried for 10 months alone. No matter who you are, I will protect you for a lifetime as my son. State teacher, state teacher. Note. The pinyin for the title is guoshi, it means teacher of the state. Personally, I don't know too much about this post, but in dramas they are usually the one the king turns to when there's some sort religious or superstitious stuff going on. Inside a luxurious palace, one girl was quickly running towards a man currently gazing at the stars, her face full of excitement. Just now did all the animals kneel in worship? If even the animals of our demon realm are affected, does that mean I have a nephew now? Looking at the young girl with a smile, the man carrying the state teacher title replies, Princess, the place I sent the king to is the land in which our queen will appear. I did not tell the king before, but it seems your brother has found the queen on his own. As for this commotion, I take it the next king of our demon realm is now born into this world. All because of a single prophecy, claiming he cannot conceive unless it's that predestined woman. The king has never married nor taken a concubine over the years. But despite the long wait, that predestined person never came. Then things finally began to move not long ago when stars started to show signs of change. As the state teacher, the man here would naturally take notice of the movement. Using the stars as a guide, he eventually managed to calculate the exact location of the queen's coming, thus the reasoning for him to toss the king out. This is too great. My royal brother can finally say farewell to his long-standing life as a virgin. Jumping up and down with excitement, the girl grabs onto the man's arm like a spoiled brat. State teacher, send me over to the outside world too. I want to see my cute little nephew. Princess, I only managed to send the king over because I took advantage of the seal's weakened state. If you want to go out too, then I will need to first find the right timing. The man helplessly smiles, his eyes full of doting emotions. Spitting out her tongue playfully, fine, when you find the opportunity you must let me go find my royal brother and my lovely little nephew. Perhaps it's due to the birth of her nephew, the little princess didn't tangle onto the man like she usually does. Instead, she turns back at the direction in which she came from. Unfortunately for the princess, she didn't get out far before her path was blocked by a winsome figure. What are you doing? She asks, unhappy at the interference. Princess, did the king really go look for that woman? The owner of that seductive voice was a gorgeous woman akin to a rose. She is my royal brother's destined wife. If my royal brother doesn't go look for her, then is he supposed to look for you instead? The princess angrily states this, her face grumpy and dark. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 8, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 8. The woman was rather disdainful. It's but a prophecy. I won't believe His Majesty wouldn't be able to produce a child if he marries another woman. Though her mind says that, her heart cannot help but be flustered at the huge movement from earlier. If you got nothing else, then move aside. My royal brother will never like a cheap product like you. After leaving this statement, the princess swung to one side and walked away, leaving behind only the livid-looking woman in the back. Ellipsis. At the same time, somewhere else in the second prince's manor, Byro's stepsister was heavily panting on the bed after making a loud painful scream. Raising a hand, she dismisses the servants and left only a single maid with her. Lua, you go spread the word that I had a premature birth, and say it's thanks to the heavens that both child and mother is safe. Prior to her marriage, Byruo had already become pregnant with child. The father would of course be the second prince himself, but such things cannot be made public. Therefore, they can only claim it's a premature birth to cover up the scandal. Yes, your grace. Lua reaffirms the order by repeating it. Oh yes, your ladyship, just now a miraculous event occurred outside. Because of it, everyone is still in shock. What miraculous event? I heard all the animals in the world were kneeling in worship at our kingdom's direction. All animals prostrating on the ground. Byruo's eye lit up, her lips curving into a smile. Lua, go spread another rumor on top of the first. Say the reasoning for the odd behavior of the animals are due to my baby's birth. The world belongs to one when the animals are prostrating at once. Such conditions, how can I not take advantage of it? Besides, Lua already said it, the direction the animals aimed at is our kingdom. Who knows, maybe it's really meant to worship my baby. As a lowly maid, this servant known as Lua knew far too well this wasn't the time to be asking questions. Respectfully replying, yes, your grace, I will go right away. With the maid gone and only her left in the big empty room, Byruo simply couldn't conceal her sinister laugh anymore. So what if you are the main daughter of the Bai family? So what if you are the granddaughter of the Lan house? In the end, your status, your position, your all belongs to me now. Even my son is now more noble than yours. My son is not only the royal grandson of the king, he's also now the recipient of 1,000,000 worship from the animals. As for you, your reputation is in ruins and only infamy remains for you and your bastard child. Ha, ha 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 tilde. This life, you will never be able to compare with me. Ellipsis. 5 years later. Somewhere on an island in the middle of a lake, there stood a dainty-looking cabin of bamboo construction. Asleep inside, the occupant was dazzling to the eye under the peaking glow from the window sill. Suddenly, the woman can feel a disturbance against her cheek. A fluffy tail. Fluttering her eyelids at first, she then shot 'em open to a frightful scene. Jerking up, the woman angrily calls out, "By Xiakan, you come out this instant." Filled with foxes in every nook and cranny, there was no room left to move inside this dainty little home. Even her body had been permeated with the stench of the uninvited critters. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 9, Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 9. A strong emphasis was made on the last part while she narrowed her eyes. Mother, it's I who brought these foxes here. Biting his lip, a layer of water starts leaking out of Bai Xiakan's eye. I want a daddy. Can you choose one of them to be daddy? Hearing those alarming words, the foxes staggered in unison and stumbled to the floor, their bodies shivering with fright. Oh my little ancestor, can you not say something so scary? Be your father. Even if we got 1,000 lives we wouldn't dare. Seeing the tears slowly forming on the boy, Bai Yan instantly softened her tone. My baby, a fox cannot be your father, he must be someone your mother I agrees with. Do you understand? Knowing the danger has subsided, a glimmer of success flashed by the young boy's iris. He knew this would work because it had never failed him before. Then why don't we go find daddy? Bai Xiaochen jumps into his mother's embrace. Soft, mellow and small with a milky fragrance, he smelled nothing like a fox. Against that demand, Bai Yan's face instantly stiffened up. Once again, the dangerous gaze of that man reappeared in her mind. Your father is already dead. Bai Yan randomly makes up an excuse to smother the idea. Mother, are you fooling me because I don't read much? Daddy is alive, I can feel his existence. Bai Xiakan purses his lip. Due to anger, his cute little cheek had taken on a reddish tone. Having her lie pointed out so openly, Bai Yan found herself in an embarrassing bind. The truth is, mother here don't know who your father is either. But if we do find your father, what are you going to do if he wants to take you away from me? Going silent, Bai Xiakan honestly never considered the problem. Daddy's going to make himself and mother separate. No, that won't do. I won't leave mother. Mother, I don't want a father anymore, he will take me away. Bai Yan didn't stop that sort of thinking. To her, this son was her all. She will never allow another take him away. And if anyone really dares to rob her son, she will die if she has to in order to kill him. Ellipsis. Blue Huo Kingdom. Inside a certain residence, a seductively evil-looking man makes an uncharacteristic sneeze. Can it be someone is talking behind my back? Must be those ministers of the demon realm. Whatever, the urgent task at hand is to find that woman. How dare you rape me 6 years ago? Just thinking of how he lost his virginity as soon as he came to this land, the seductively evil-looking man would find his tooth itching with anger. If that woman were to stand in front of him now, he might lose to his impulses and shred the person to bits. Ellipsis. Back over at the dainty-looking bamboo cabin, Bai Yan had already sat up from the couch, her body lazily stretching itself. Baby, tomorrow we will go see your Shifu to say farewell, it's time we left this place. Note. Shifu is the Chinese way of saying master. I wanted to use it because it sounds better in this sort of story. It's been 5 years. I wonder if those people still remember my existence. Narrowing her eyes, even the temperature around Bai Yan had dropped as a result of the frost in her body. Mother, are we going to leave now? Bai Xiakan jumps up and down with excitement, his happy face filled with innocence. Hearing this, the foxes still inside the room all exhaled in relief. Thank goodness, this little ancestor is finally leaving. Now we won't have to be constantly on edge. Mother will bring you back to find your uncle. It's been 5 years, I wonder if he's doing well. In the Bai house, there's only her brother Bai Xiao left whom she cares for. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 10. Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox Part 10. Xuanhuan waves his cute little hand in excitement. Little Rice, come with me to pack our things. This so-called Little Rice was a baby white tiger sunbathing next to the doorway. Hearing the summon, he lazily looks up to send the boy a glance. I'm a white tiger, would you please not take me as a kitty? Xuanhuan immediately got unhappy. Stabbing his small little fist against his hip, he pulls down his face and said, now that's your wrong, Little Rice. As a kitty, you not only refuse to accept your identity, you can't even say meow. If the little white tiger were to be a person, it's a certainty his twitching face would become apparent for all to see. To think he is an offspring of the prestigious white tiger race would be reduced to being a cat. And even more degrading was the fact that this little ancestor would feed him dried little fishies. Oh, I want to eat meat, what to do? Little Rice, hurry and say, meow. If you say, meow, then you get meat. It's unsure where the boy managed to get a piece of roast meat from, but he's doing a fine job of dangling it in front of the drooling tigerling. Against that fragrant aroma, Little Rice's integrity as a white tiger instantly crumbled. Meow. See, now that's better. Xuanhuan hands the roast meat over and gently pats the tiger on the head. Follow me and you will definitely get meat. Desperately nodding his tiger head, Little Rice didn't care how little principle he had so long as he got his daily supply of meat. Pleasantly watching the interaction between the two small fries, Xuanhuan only had this in her mind as she lay there comfortably on the couch. I will not let anyone destroy this warm picture in my life. If anyone dares to come take my son, they will pay dearly even if I have to upheaval the world. Come now, we will go to say our farewell to your grandchefs. Ellipsis. The peach blossom courtyard in which they are located lies in the middle of the island where a sea of pink covered the landscape. Calm and peace gave evidence to the existence of this paradise. That's of course assuming one can ignore the loud booming explosion that occurred just now. Someone is in trouble again, Xuanhuan mumbles after noticing her mother's dark expression. Inside the wooded area, aside from the peach blossoms native to this region, there are also various herbs planted here by Xuanhuan over the years. Seeing her work ruined in a flash upon arrival, she can only use bleeding in the heart to describe her current feelings. Suddenly, Xuanhuan raises her gaze at the three helpless old men in front. Who's the one that failed while practicing alchemy and blew up my garden? Xuanhuan timely adds in another sentence, my three grandchefs, honesty will get you leniency, and resistance will only get you more punishment. You all better fess up now. My disciple, this matter has nothing to do with me and your second Shifu. The one known as first Shifu Zhengqi righteously states this, his face apparently pained by the fact, I and your second Shifu only came over after hearing the explosion. And who would have guessed, old three here is simply too much. First he stole your Dan pill recipe, then he went ahead and tried it without permission. Now he even ruined your herb garden. We mustn't let him off. The one known as second Shifu Ren Yi coordinates his testimony perfectly. That's right, my precious disciple, we're here to catch the criminal. You are now free to dispose of old three, we won't get involved no matter how you scold and beat him. Third Shifu Qiu Shurong was flushing red on his face. Apparently he felt quite wronged by the shameless pair he called brothers. In the future don't say you know me.